to the City Council Finance Committee of March 8th, 2022. Committee members present, myself, Councilor Di Natale, Councilors Cruz, Van Hazinga, Zarella, and Boschman. We will begin with a recording of public meetings announcement. I ask anyone in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and address. Seeing none, public forum. There is a public forum this evening for orders 3022 and 3122, in addition to the CDBG package. If there are people in the audience that are here for CDBG, we will address CDBG at that time, not through public forum comment. Is there anybody here wishing to speak as a member of the public that's not tied to one of the CDBG projects that would like to speak? Seeing none, we will move on to the agenda. First, we will begin with 030 and 03122. They go together, involving the Department of Public Health. 3022 is an order that the City of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the Community Foundation of North Central Massachusetts grant in the approximate amount of $30,000 for the purpose of said grant, which is to provide outreach services to the homeless population in the city. And then 3122 is a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Housing and Community Development, in the amount of $100,000 for providing outreach services to the homeless population in the city. So both grants are for $130,000 total for outreach services to the homeless population in the city. Director Curry.
Good evening, councilors. Basically, exactly what you said. We are looking to expand our street outreach program, and these funds, combined with the CDBG funds, you'll hear later on in the evening, allow us to do so. We hope to actually include some weekend and evening hours up until 8 or 9 o'clock at night to assist other departments that find a need. I don't know if there's any questions about these, but it's pretty much expanding what we're already doing.
Councilor Boschman.
I'm going to pass this, but I just want to ask you, again, I'll say it, with all the money that the police get from ARPA, and you get a grant and you get money from ARPA, I hope we're working together as a team to solve this problem. There's a lot of money invested here, a lot of money. Doing the same, basically almost the same exact work.
Well, actually, it's not the same exact work. I think the police work is a little bit more clinical. We are actually doing a little bit more homeless and overdose outreach out on the streets. So it's a little bit of a difference. However, one of the reasons why we are expanding is to help the police department in those situations where they reach evenings and have no answers for when they are questioned for needs. So yes, we plan to work together with the police department the best we can.
Okay.
There are fine lines. I do want to draw that out. We can't work together 100% of the time, but we will do our best to and they will, I'm sure, in return, help us with our needs, with their funding.
Okay. I make a motion we accept.
So, Councilor, if you could hold on that for a second. Councilor Zarella had his hand up.
I don't know about that. All right.
Councilor?
Thank you very much, Councilor Boschman, and thank you, Mr. President. So just to clarify that point, it would be fair to say then that even though it's not necessarily a singular unified effort between the health department and the police department, it's a collaborative and synergistic effort.
That's correct. And the police department are part of our... Look at that.
I figured I'd chime in on this. This program that he's presenting this evening, it's exciting news for the city of Fitchburg. Law enforcement is really trying to break away what our role is in the homeless community. We have different roles to play, where you're saying we have different aspects of it. But quite frankly, you look at any large city, any city within the Commonwealth that has a proactive health department, they're spearheading the efforts as it's related to homelessness issues. My officers are out there all the time, and we're working with the health department, but the bringing on this additional help will severely impact the way we do things in the city of Fitchburg, and it's a positive thing moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Make a motion, we accept?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 030, 03022, and 03122. If there are no objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, they are both passed.
Thank you.
Favorably recommended. Thank you. Last item on the agenda is a communication from the mayor regarding the proposed budget for the Community Development Block Grant Year 48. Letter from the mayor dated February 22nd to the President of the City Council states as follows. In consideration of the recommendation of the Planning Board and comments by various citizens regarding the Year 48 CDBG, I hereby submit to the City Council the following Year 48 CDBG application for your review. Attached, please find Year 48 estimated funding, Year 48 funding requested, and Year 48 funding recommended. The Year 48 consolidated plan must be submitted to the Department of Housing and Urban Development no later than May 15th, 2022, to ensure funds will be available by July 1st, 2022. In order to meet the submission deadline for Year 48 CDBG program, comments must be received by the City Council's March 15th, 2022 meeting. And as part of this package, total amount of funding recommended equals $1,029,067. And like we did on the ARPA budget 2 weeks ago, I am going to go through each one of these individually and ask for a vote individually so we can keep it as transparent as possible and as painless as possible. Director of Community Development, Skorsky, do you have anything you'd like to state at this time?
I don't believe so. I think what's outlined in the budget submitted by the mayor is pretty straightforward. I guess one thing, on the streetscapes item, it can be a bit confusing to follow. We had, I think, over $500,000 worth of sidewalk projects that were submitted, and of course, our entitlement yearly is about $1 million for all projects. So what we did on that line item, we were working with our Department of Public Works to put together a queue of projects that we're going to set as a shared priority among departments, and then work to find, both through CDBG and other sources, ways to help make those projects happen and move through the queue expeditiously. So, for example, there was a Franklin Road project and the Bowtell Street one, and we both just jointly submitted applications to another state grant program. If we get that funding, those items can move off the list and we can move on to the next items to make sure we're really accomplishing all those objectives. So, you know, I think the queue there is Bowtell Street, Pleasant Street, Franklin, and then moving from there, it could be the North Street Sidewalk Project or some of the main Boulder efforts if there's an overrun. So that's that line item, and it's a bit more complicated than the rest, but I'm happy to take any other questions if you have them.
Okay, so as I said earlier in the meeting, what we have typically done is, while the groups that are before us this evening already made their presentations and pitches before the planning board, what we will do here is I will read each project individually, take it up individually. If committee members have questions on a specific item that the three of you cannot address, then we will allow the audience, whomever is here as a member representing that project, to answer whatever questions these counselors have. So with that said, we will begin with Public Facilities and Improvements. Project A, Park Hill Park Phase 2, Parks and Recreation. $60,000 requested, $60,000 recommended. This is a continuation of projects at Park Hill Park to make improvements to the stonework along Sandbrook and repairs to the BMX bike park, the Ryan C. Jubir skate park, and the baseball fields. The project will preserve the stone bridges that lead hikers to the wooded sections of the park. Finally, the important recreational features of the park will be repaired to restore their usefulness to the neighborhood. Any questions from the committee on Project A?
I do. I get, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, got a
Counsel.
question for you. If you wanted to vote for public facility improvements, the whole package at one time, can we do that? I only get one question. I'd like to know, my question to these guys here, you're saying a lot of this work on sidewalk improvements and everything else is going to be done by the DPW?
The bulk of the work will be done through their on-call contract with sidewalks in particular. I think with the Park Hill Park Phase 2 project, that would be a DPW project.
So can I just interject for 1 second, please, because this is not part of Project A? Why don't I poll the committee then? I mean, does the committee wish to do what we did for ARPA 2 weeks ago and go through each one of these and take a vote individually? Or do you want me to package public facilities and improvements as one package, open it up to any questions you have on any of the projects on that package, and then we take a vote on the package? Councilor Zarella?
I would think that for most of these items, going through line by line is probably the more transparent means, but for this particular one where it's all city expenditures and they're all of a similar nature, I would think that unless members of the committee specifically want to vote for one and not another, it would make sense to take them up together.
Mr. Chair, the only reason why I brought that up, I don't think you want me to get on a roll, and we'll be here, I can guarantee you we'll be here to 5 minutes to 12.
Counselor, no matter how I seem to perform these meetings, whether I package them or I do them individually, there's always some preference that changes every year, so I'm just trying to be consistent with what we've done previously. So, Councilor Van Haasingen?
It doesn't matter to me in what format we vote on them. I think it is helpful just to go through and highlight each project, even if it's not reading the entire segment, just so the public watching and listening can have a clear understanding about where these funds are going to go.
Okay, so what I will do is I will take public facilities and improvements as one package. So I will just read the projects, the recommended amounts, and then the total, then open it up, and then Councilor Boschman, you can repeat your question within this package first and foremost. So public facilities and improvements. There were 7 recommended projects totaling $380,499. Park Hill Park Phase 2, $60,000. Parks and playgrounds, $80,000. Sidewalk accessibility, $43,000. Streetscape improvements, $167,499, which also encompasses the Bowtel Goodrich Sidewalk Improvements, Project F. Abolitionist Park Phase 3, $5,000. Summer Street Art Improvements, $5,000. Public Art Project, $20,000. Councilor Boschman, you had a question on this package.
My question is for you or the DPW. With all this work that we're putting out, curb cuts and everything else, does the DPW have the manpower to do this work?
So I'll let Commissioner Erickson speak on that.
Thanks, councilors. I believe the DPW does have the manpower to do the work. The Streets Division and the Parks Division are both nearly fully staffed. That being said, we do have a backlog of CDBG work from last year as well, so we need to finish that before we move on with this work. So we're anticipating splitting the work on sidewalks, at least, between our own in-house staff and going out to bid and assigning it to a contractor. So that should help alleviate some of the backlog that we have right now. But the short answer to your question is, I believe, yes, we do have the manpower.
Now, my question to Tom S. Tom, I noticed that the Disability Act on curb cuts, and you want to put curb cuts on Elm Street and Wallace Ave and Heartland. My question to you on Heartland and some of the projects that you want to do on back Main Street and Main Street, I thought we got funded by the state over $2 million for Main Street and Boulder Drive for sidewalk improvement and everything else. Why are we using CBG funds for that?
So are you referring strictly to the letter C there, or are you also the item below it where we mentioned briefly some of the complete streets items?
Yeah, like Caldwell Street was in there because you want to put curb cuts, and that's on Main Street, and that's part of the $2 million, over the $2 million project that we just got a grant from.
So the Caldwell Street, that's further past the scope of the work area right now for the main Boulder project, which ends at the Upper Common. And then the senior center work, that's been an item that Joan, the director of the senior center, has brought to our attention on a number of occasions, and is certainly a high-need area, and is also outside of the scope of the main Boulder project.
But how much money do we have in that fund, the Disabilities Act Fund, the one for curb cuts, to help the handicap? And how much do we have? Because I remember one time we had over $50,000, and we haven't used. Every year we donate money into that fund, and then we never get to put the curb cuts in.
There was a backlog for a time, but I believe that's been freed up at this point. That I think the last project that DPW took on that was Disability Commission-focused work was the Water Street area, where some curb cuts improvements were needed, some ramps.
All right, that's all I want.
We
I'll
did
make a
do
motion
some.
we pass it.
We did some sidewalk work in the Cherry Street, Day Street area this past summer, and some of that was ADA ramps as well, so I think that might have been some of the work you're talking about.
All right.
Council Zarella.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're just getting your revenge here. You're trying to silence me now. So I just wanted to note, for those who've been following along with the various grant hearings that we've had over the last month, that Project B here, the $80,000 for parks and playgrounds, is the follow-up to the appropriation from the ARPA funds for those same two parks that we approved last week. So with this will be, I believe, am I correct in remembering that this will complete the full funding for the renovation of Park Hill Park and Mama Fitz Park?
That's correct. Or at least the Park Hill Park playground area primarily.
Right. Excellent. I'm looking forward to it, especially now that I have a little regret who's almost big enough to start using it.
I make a motion that we accept that. Oh,
Councilor Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sure you guys know what I'm going to ask about. That's Battelle Street. I was really happy to see that that's got moved to the top of the priority for streetscapes. A couple weeks ago, we had another accident. You guys are probably aware. It split a telephone pole right in half. Is there a timeline about we can anticipate the work on Battelle with some of these RRFBs being installed and maybe start to slow this traffic down a little bit?
So right now, what we've actually done is, all the DPW projects have been lumped into one kind of fund, essentially, to allow us to tackle our priorities as we have the manpower available. But we also recently applied for what they call a shared streets and spaces grant through DOT to try to get some additional funding to maybe take off some of that Battelle-Goodrich Street stuff from the list of CDBG tasks and fund it separately. So as soon as we hear back yes or no from that grant program, we'll make a decision as to whether we have to, spend these CDBG funds or use those grant funds. Hopefully we're successful with those, and we can kind of do more work with the CDBG money that we do have. So the short answer, I guess, is as soon as we hear back from that grant program as to whether we have the funds or not, we'll make the decision as to whether to go ahead right away with the project or, use those funds for it.
And it's pretty unconventional grant program in that, I submitted on Monday, I want to say, or maybe last week, but we usually hear back within a month, as opposed to many grants where it can take, 4 or 5 months to get a response, and then we can move forward pretty quickly. I think whether CDBG or that program, the absolute end date would be June 30th, 2023, but we'd like to get it done a lot sooner than that, and actually the grant would allow us to expand the scope beyond what was applied for here.
And you said that was June 20th, 2023?
Yeah, but I think we both anticipate taking that on sooner, we hope.
Yeah, the goal would be to get it done this construction season. So if we are successful with that grant application, it'll also allow us to purchase a couple of the radar speed warning signs, one for each travel direction, in addition to the RRFBs, and then obviously the sidewalk work we can fund with the CDBG money still.
Mm-hmm. And I hope we get that one because a lot of our constituents put a lot of work in themselves with letters and photographs, and just want to take a second to thank them and thank you guys for all the work you did. We put a great grant together, so I hope that comes through. I yield the floor. Thank you.
I'll make that motion now.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to accept the public facilities and improvements slate of projects as recommended. If there is no objection, I will take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, committee recommends it to the full council. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
Next section of projects is public services. There are 7 recommended projects totaling $149,887. Street outreach, $28,000. Fitchburg Farmers Market, $7,887. Spartacus Program, $12,000. Drug Enforcement Patrol Program, $65,000. Family Homeless Shelter, $10,000 for North Star Family Services. Homelessness Prevention Project, Community Legal Aid, $11,000. Access to Recovery, Restoration Recovery. I'm sorry, that was not recommended. Last one was recommended for $16,000. Transportation to Full Steam Ahead after-school program from the Boys and Girls Club of Fitchburg and Leominster. Any questions from the committee on those projects? Councilor Boschman.
Question, maybe Tom can, the YMCA program, I was reading through the book that you gave me. Got one question, I know he's here. My question is, if a person doesn't go to school, do they get involved and go pick up the kid to go to school if he skips school?
I'll leave that one now.
Because according to this book, they do more than just, they get involved after school or even go to the houses, according to what I read in the book. It's lies, fake news. But that's what I got.
Yeah, you can stay.
We do not go into the kids' homes and pick them up or take them to school. But we are involved with all the schools, with the schools.
I know, I read
We
the
have the
thing.
permission to be able to go, make sure that they're doing good in school, keeping their grades up. We do hold them accountable on a lot of the things, but we don't go to their homes, pick them up from school. We're not involved with that.
Okay, that's what I want to know. That's all I wanted to know. Because I think you do a good program. I'm not finding fault with your program. If I was, you know it, but I'm not finding fault.
Thank you.
The other thing, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, I wanted to say something. I went to their shelter, the homeless shelter out in Leominster, Mass. For the first time in 8 years. Just want to let you know, because I was a big critic of theirs. I was kind of impressed. And, and they did a good job. And they do a good job on that. And,
Take your wins where you can.
And that's about it. I support them wholeheartedly this time around. You won't hear me give them a hard time.
Oh, my God. The earth is parting.
And then the other thing is the other two things that I'm really disappointed at is the lack of interest that we give to the kids. We only give $10,000 to that group, the Spartans group, and the YMCA. We only give $16,000. We got approximately 300 kids that go there, or that I read in their book, or something like that, and they're only one way. And what I have a hard time with, a lot of the kids that we send there are low standards. They don't have transportation, so they kind of have to beg people for rides. And if they're, I said this last year, and I'll say it again, if they're anything like my wife, she doesn't like to ask people for rides for their kids because she feels like they're putting those people out. And I think we ought to start really looking at this. I always said this, I think it's a great good afternoon, a great school, I think, for after school for the kids, the students, the young students. And I'll say it again, an idle mind is a troubled mind. If we keep them on the streets, they get into trouble. But if they're at the school, they don't get in trouble. So I'm always in favor of it, but we should give more money to them. That's what I always felt. I always say the same thing every year, and that's it.
And for those in the public watching for the first time a CDBG hearing, I think one of the unfortunate, qualifications of the CDBG program is there is a cap for public services. So the number that you see here, we got $284,000 in proposals. What we funded, $149,000. That is the cap, and we can't go above that. And we have a really great slate of existing programs that we support. I will say the only increase we did have went to the YMCA because we know they do important work and we want to continue to encourage and strengthen it. I wish we could give more, but our hands are tied in that regard.
Well, if nobody else has got any questions, I'll make a motion.
One second, Counsel. I see a name on the screen up there. Boys and Girls Club, okay. Since FATV's not telling me that she, oh. Hi, Elizabeth, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you for, I think they're commenting on the Boys and Girls Club, not the YMCA. I just want to make sure I'm not confusing the two.
No, I was just saying that we should give more money to the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA.
Okay.
They're good, great programs. Even though I didn't go to the YMCA this year, and I did not go to the Boys and Girls Club, but I've been there and I was really impressed with their activities and what they do after school.
Okay.
Thank you. And I couldn't agree with you more, Counselor, on the keeping the kids off the streets, and the transportation is the key here. So we are transporting kids from 7 schools over to the club in Leominster. And so we're really, excited that we can do that, but we want to continue it. And obviously with bus fees increasing, labor shortages with drivers, and gas increasing, we anticipate more expense. So we thank you for your support and certainly appreciate the comments.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the public services
Second.
slate?
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the public services slate for $149,887 as recommended. If there are no objections, I'll take this under unanimous consent. Seeing none, the committee recommends favorably the planning board's recommendations and the mayor's. Thank you. Next package is economic development. There are 4 recommendations totaling $175,000. Small Business Technical Assistance Program, New View Communities, $25,000. Fitchburg Business Assistant, Community Development, $55,000. Sign and Facade Program, Community Development, $60,000. Fitchburg Downtown Coordinator, Fitchburg State University, $35,000. Questions on this package?
I got a question.
Council Boschman.
On the signs and facial programs, Tom, don't we have rules and regulations on that? If they get graffitis on buildings, that they're supposed to take it off their property, get rid of it according to our codes? And broken windows, fix them according to our codes? And signs, if they're no longer a business, they take them down according to our codes?
All of the above, Counselor.
And why are we funding this program? I read this, not this one, but one of the other ones you had, that we're going to give money towards, that I read.
Right.
Are you talking about Project X, sign and facade?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Yep, go ahead.
So that is the stick of enforcement, but we need a carrot associated with it, having that incentive. And actually, one of the items that Community Development and Planning has been partnering with the Mayor's Office on, and we're going to be initiating in partnership with Reimagine North of Main starting this spring, is a really organized code enforcement effort, specifically focused on Main Street, specifically focused on some of the items you mentioned, outdated signage, broken windows, and the like. And I think it is sufficient or necessary, but not sufficient, to just come at it from a code enforcement standpoint. I think it's important to be there with an incentive to say, take your outdated sign down. By the way, if you have a new one you'd like to add, we could help support it through our program and in partnership with North of Main. So we wanted to take a multifaceted approach there, but I certainly agree with you. Those are all issues, and those are issues we're focused on.
And the only thing I got to say on this one here, I'm all in favor of all the above except for Y.
If you're against Y, we can exclude that from the package.
I hope
for a
you would
separate
do
vote. Okay. Council Zarella.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to speak on the Project X sign and facades briefly and note that, yes, as Tom can tell you, I've been a strong advocate of enhanced enforcement as well, but especially in the downtown corridor, you've got essentially 2 types of building owners who have broken windows and graffiti and so forth. There are the ones who have rundown buildings because they just don't care, and sure, go after them, by all means. But then there are the ones who are trying to make a business work, and it's not their fault that the building has been run down before they got there or has been damaged by whoever along the way. And in order to help their business to work, which is what we want for the downtown, we may need to help them out a little bit financially to do the cleanup that we want to see and that they may also want but not be able to afford. Thinking specifically of signs, if we look at our code for signage, the requirements are fairly minimal. Someone who is forced to replace an outdated sign through a code compliance effort might very well put up a very cheap sign as a replacement. Whereas if we incentivize them to put up something nice that will make the downtown look nice, that's a win for everyone. Yeah, there will probably be some people who get a small share of this money who, in some sense or other, don't deserve it. But that's often the price we have to pay to get the money to the people who are going to help to make this city better. There's no way to exclude every bad actor from a program. It's just not possible, at least not without a huge amount of administrative overhead.
You give that right here, that number.
And then as to the downtown coordinator, looking at the description here, and this has been a recurring line item in the CDBG funding for the last several years, but working with micro enterprises by offering marketing and promotional services. That, again, is exactly what we need. We can't revitalize the downtown only by trying to bring in people who have a lot of starting capital to work with and a lot of resources to promote their own business and so forth. We also need to encourage people who have work ethic and a plan, but may not necessarily be able to do a lot of self-promotion, a lot of, development and so forth. And ideally, this will maybe not in direct tax revenue, but certainly in economic prosperity, pay itself back manyfold. That's how investment in businesses works. So I am very much in favor of all of these items. In fact, while I really like a lot of the other programs on our slate that we've voted on so far tonight, every year this is almost always my favorite section of the CDBG funding because I've said it before and I'll say it again and again. I know exactly how important small business can be to a community because frankly, it's why I'm sitting here. I wouldn't be where I am without small business, and that small business wouldn't be where it is if some people didn't take a chance on it. So thank you for putting this together, and I will yield the floor.
Councilor Van Hazinga.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo Councilor Zarella's support for the Fitchburg Downtown Coordinator. I think attracting businesses and helping them to get started on Main Street is just part of the problem. We need to support them to make sure they continue to be successful and flourish, and that's how we get a flourishing downtown. I think it's also important to note that we are really leveraging a partnership with Fitchburg State University with this position, that we're only paying a portion of the salary for the position. And we are really benefiting from the university's investment in downtown, and it's something that we should do our part and support. Thank you.
Motion to approve the economic development slate?
On the motion.
Councilor, would you mind, there was no second.
Yes, I
Would you mind,
apologize, I
leaving
forgot.
out Project Y?
Yes, motion to approve projects V, W, and X.
Second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve projects V, W, and X, excluding Y. There are no objections. I'll take this on unanimous consent. Seeing none, those are recommended favorably to the council. Project Y is before you.
Motion to approve Project Y.
Second?
On the motion.
Motion made and seconded to approve Project Y, Fitchburg Downtown Coordinator, for $35,000. Speaking on the motion, Council Boishman.
On the motion, the reason why I don't want to support this, at this present time, I don't think we have enough business, and I think we have an economic development that can do their job up there in the office, in the planning department, to get businesses downtown and to do that kind of work. So I will not support that position at all, right at this present time. No.
Council, before you, I just, this isn't just a position that supports business, if you will. It says that...
I read it. I understand what it says.
Well, Council, I have the floor. I'm not trying to have a debate with you. I'm just giving you my opinion here. The position works directly with enterprises, micro-enterprises, and offers marketing and promotional services to assist with sales and revenue for overall economic development of the downtown. The downtown coordinator is also responsible for developing and implementing events and activities that attract more visitors to the downtown area. So there was some legitimate debate about the need for this position the last couple of years because of COVID, especially in year 46, I want to say, when it first hit us in 2020. I believe, actually, our CDBG vote was the last in-person meeting we had. I may be wrong, but it was either the first virtual meeting or the last in-person one. It was the last in-person meeting. And so it wasn't that year. It was year 47, 2021, when a lot of businesses were still not open. And some councilors understandably questioned whether we needed to keep this position for that year because there was no Civic Days events. A lot of city events were canceled for the downtown. But we kept it because it went just beyond promotional marketing and assisting with events and activities. Now we're in a year where everything is opened up. We are having Civic Days. We are having Memorial Day. We're having all of our city events again, specifically Civic Days, which is the biggie. 4th of July parade, block party, fireworks, and a lot of businesses are also back in full operation this year after the COVID-19 restrictions have been lifted. So if there was ever a time to have this position in place, now is the time, with the reimposition of all of these major city events and with the activity that is taking place downtown. I always disagree with my colleague with the comment about not enough business or no business. We have a lot of businesses in downtown. Yes, there are a lot of areas in downtown that are still vacant, but there's a lot of areas that are not. And, you know, the small mom and pop stores, the barber shops, the community assistance type, social service type jobs, restaurants, you know, and I always list them, and I always forget a few, but you know the names. And, you know, we've got a business that's moving to where the Historical Society was, not the Historical Society, where Dr. Alfredson's dentist place used to be across from the Fay Club. I'm not going to go through the list. We have a lot more activity in downtown today than we did several years ago. And we have more projects that are coming to fruition within the next 2 to 4 years. We need to assist those businesses that are online right now, and there are many of them. And most importantly, we need to assist the events that are going to be happening again that were offline for 2 years. So this is the time to keep this position. This is not the time to get rid of it. And so for that reason, I will support it more so than I did last year, because I was on the fence last year, but this year I am not. Now is the time to utilize this position to its fullest extent and have a great year in this city with respect to its events and assist our local businesses in downtown with any assistance that they need in conjunction with the Economic Development Director. Yes, we have an Economic Development team, but again, their scope of work goes way beyond what this job requires. So they're not just doing this, they're doing a lot of other things. And I will just make a note very quickly that while the Economic Development Director and Mr. Skorsky's office encompasses downtown, Mary Jo in Economic Development, she covers the whole city. She doesn't just focus on downtown. So, you know, West Fitchburg, you just take a pick of where there are other business sectors. She's got to cover the whole city. This person assists with just downtown. They're focused on just downtown. So it's a supplement to her services in certain respects. She does a lot more than just this, and she does it all over the city. So I just wanted to make those points. Councilor Zarella.
Thank you. I'll second most of those points. And in particular, I'll note that if we were to ask our Economic Development Director to take over this role in the downtown, that would be less time she could spend on businesses in Cleghorn. But generally, though, I do think that the events are important. They will help out the businesses that are here, particularly the restaurants that are going in, because those are exactly the businesses that someone's going to say, oh, yeah, I wish this place is closed today for the block party or whatever, but I'd love to come back tomorrow and grab lunch or whatever. But also, if the objection, and again, I don't agree that it's the case, but if the objection is we don't have enough business downtown, this is exactly what will help with that. Having events that demonstrate a vibrant downtown community will attract more business, and particularly these micro enterprises. If you're a small business or an aspiring small business owner, and you can look at Fitchburg, at downtown Fitchburg, and say, hey, if I invest here, if I start my business here, I can do more with less because the city will help me out a bit. That's going to get the business in, and it's going to go a long way to keep it from being one of the whatever the heck percent it is. It's a ridiculously high percentage of small businesses that fail in the first year. Most small businesses fail in the first year. This will help to make Fitchburg a place where that is at least somewhat less likely, which helps us, helps the entrepreneurs, and helps the community. It's relatively short money on a city scale, but for a truly small business, not even like a small office, but a small, a mom and pop store that I'm looking right across the street, there's a tattoo parlor, little things like that. The little bit of assistance we may be able to give them to just get the word out a little bit more about their business, that could be the make or break in their first year as they're trying to get established, as they're trying to build up a client base. And we can keep just rolling it along to the next new businesses that come up. Hopefully, down the road, as our economy continues to improve, we can even make something like this a line item in our core budget. Just keep doing it at an even bigger scale. Not the coordinator itself. I don't anticipate that line item will grow all that much, but what the coordinator is able to do in terms of assistance and so forth. So yeah, I think this will be very good for the city. I think it probably would have shown its worth considerably more already if we hadn't had the pandemic. But of course, that threw a wrench into absolutely everything. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to seeing this sort of fully flower now that we're back in business and getting ready to see our renaissance completed.
So I have a motion made and seconded to approve, oh, sorry, Councilor Cruz, sorry.
I'm in favor of this for a lot of the same reasons as my colleagues here, so I won't repeat and I'll be brief. When we talk to our constituents, I think we can all agree that events and stuff downtown is something that they almost universally want. They want that sense of community. They want to come downtown for the block parties, for the civic days. There was quite an uproar when they were canceled. And this is important in facilitating these events for our constituents. So I'm all in favor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield the floor.
I have a motion made and seconded to approve Project Y. I will take this on a roll call vote. Councilor Cruz?
Yes.
Councilor Van Hazinga?
Yes.
Councilor Zarella?
Yes.
Councilor Boschman?
No.
And I am a yes. Favorably recommended, 4-1.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, no, we got two more
Oh, I'm
sections.
sorry. For some reason, I thought we were at the end.
Aren't you?
Got excited there for a
You
moment.
having fun yet? Come on. Next section, rehabilitation and preservation. Two projects totaling $123,456. Critical home repair, Habitat for Humanity, $20,000. And code enforcement for the Board of Health, $103,456. Council Boschman.
Tom, did they work last year during the pandemic? No, yeah?
Who's they?
The Habitat for Humanity.
Oh,
I see a head shake of yes.
They did. Are they working with mostly elderly people that can't afford to hire contractors that own houses? Yes, we do. And I want to make very clear, it's not just certain areas of Fitchburg, it's throughout the whole city? Okay. As long as you meet the qualifications of the program, which I read your guidelines. I'm in favor. I think it's a very good program. I think that we should advertise that more so the elderly that own their house and can't afford a lot should be taking advantage of it, but what we can. $20,000 doesn't go far, believe me. And that, so I'm in favor of that, and I'm in favor of the Board of Health and code enforcement.
That's the stick to go with the carrot.
Huh?
Code enforcement.
Yeah, right. So, I'm in favor of it. So I make a motion, we accept?
Second?
Out.
I'll let somebody say something.
Motion made and seconded to accept rehabilitation and preservation. If I see no objection, I'll take this into unanimous consent. Seeing none, it is favorably recommended. Last section, planning and administration, one project, CDBG administration, community development, $200,225. And just as a point that I make every year, that federal guidelines stipulate that this account cannot be beyond 20% of the total allotment, correct?
Correct. And if-
So, and this number reflects 20%. That's the max.
Motion to approve?
One sec.
Sorry.
Mayor, did you have something?
I do.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I get this out before we adjourn, but my thanks to the community development folks, particularly Cindy Dalton, she always does just an outstanding job each year putting this together, along with Liz Murphy, certainly, and the trail boss and all of this, Mr. Skoronsky. Thank you. And again, did a great job. You know, we're talking about $1 million, and sounds like a lot of money, but when you see all of the competing interests, there's probably none that you can say that's not a good idea. So, but we have to, and they have to, and then they make their case to me. So we're certainly proud and pleased with this package once again, and with this and ARPA, we're going to make a significant impact, have a significant impact in the city, and we're pleased about that. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that this is my 15th CDBG package, and I don't recall this package ever being beyond 1.5 million.
No.
I think it's been around 1 million for 15 years now, probably longer, but I've been here every 15 years. It's always been, I think there was one year, maybe it was 1.3. I don't think I've ever seen it go over 1.5, but 1,112. It's like Chapter 90, you know?
Inflation adjusted.
The costs
right.
go up every year, and the services that these organizations provide, the costs go up, costs of doing business, and yet the number stays flat. So, you know, I have written to the Congresswoman and to our senators about, you know, if the federal government is going to look to expand any programs, CDBG is something that would probably warrant a serious look, considering, as I said, at least to my knowledge, we've gotten flat funding for almost 20 years, probably longer. And I mean, I can only imagine how we're going to stretch this money 20 years from now. So, you know, if you see the projects that this money is dependent upon, goes a long way. So I just wanted to make that point, that there's a lot of frustration for me at the state and federal level about programs that they create, and then they don't maintain the funding in line with cost of living increases and inflation. $1 million 15 years ago is not going to get you a lot 15 years later at the same amount. But I guess we can take what we can get. But it's a little frustrating that this number is not like 2 million, 2.5, because Lord knows, you know, the federal government with trillions and trillions, what's another $500 million for a CDBG block grant for a city like ours? It's pennies on the dollar for them, maybe less. So, but I just noticed that this year, after 15 years, that this number has never really moved. So the fact that we're able to do all this work and squeeze that as much as we can is quite a feat, because I don't know how we do it, considering this was worth a lot more 15 years ago to us. $1 million was worth a lot more to us 15 years ago. Councilor Boschman.
I just want to say one thing, two things, rather. On this, you're probably all wondering why I did what I did tonight. It's the mayor's budget, it's the mayor's proposals, and I tried numerous times to change them, and you can't change them. So instead of fighting and arguing about the whole thing all night long and get nowhere, I just figured I'd save time for the people out there. And the only thing I like to see is, instead of using 20% off the top, I think we ought to try to cut it down to around 13%. If we can do it, I think the overhead is high on that 20%. I like to see us go down to about 13, 14%.
Well, important to note that our CDBG admin, you know, covers, you know, first and foremost, the critical people we have here at the table, both Cindy and Liz, but also our senior project manager and a few other roles within the department. And this reduces our reliance on the general fund to help fund that important work, and specifically for the OPEB benefits as well. So, you know, for that reason alone, we need all of the positions we have within the department, and this allows us not to have to make compromises and to have everything fully funded and to reduce our reliance on the general fund. And I think going down to 13% would make that untenable.
All right. Make a motion, we accept? Oh, sorry, gets a motion.
Councilor Zarella.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that, unless I'm misunderstanding, this isn't entirely overhead either that we're paying. This also, you know, again, I'll quote from the description we're given, these funds enable the city to apply for, receive, and administer additional federal and state grants. So this money, in part or possibly even many times over, pays for itself because it pays for the work that the Community Development Department does in seeking more funding.
And if I could add to that, because we just went through the staffing study here that's ongoing, and I did my research last week, but so the 210,000 that CDBG is funding here, and I think it's roughly 300 to 400,000 in the general fund. My department's currently overseeing over $10 million in grant programs that we brought to the city. And, you know, to the point of the sidewalk projects and the long queue that we've got, we just applied for 2 grants through the Shared Streets and Spaces program that hopefully would be another 250,000, and I think we'll be pretty competitive on both of those. So point well taken, and it's certainly something we're always looking to do is, you know, to Councilor Di Natale's point, inflation adjusted from 1980. What we have today is half of what we did back then. So we're pretty acutely aware of that and looking to take those small dollars and leverage them into bigger grant opportunities for the city.
And you guys do a great job with that, and I thank you.
Thank you.
So I will, but if you'd like, you may make the motion.
I'll make the motion, we accept this CBG funds.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to accept the final project for planning and administration as recommended. If there are no objections, I'll take this on unanimous consent.
Make
Seeing
a motion,
none,
we adjourn.
it passes.
Second?
I have a motion made and seconded to adjourn. If there are no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you.